Ask anyone, Daniel Underwood was the most happy-go-lucky guy you'd ever meet.
And what would we take away from your brother? What would you say was the lasting impression if I met him?
His smile and his jokes, just very easygoing, laid back. He would love to go out to the lake a lot.
The always smiling 33-year-old was just a big kid who loved nothing more than to hang out with his children in their little hometown of Sulphur Springs, Texas. But after the messy breakup of his marriage, Daniel moves on right into the arms of a girl he met at a bar, Rebecca Nelson. Rebecca shacks up at Daniel's house and they're already planning for the future. At least, Rebecca is.
She was going through what little bit of money he had left and right.
And all the money he had was from a cashed out 401k worth close to $20,000. Daniel tells his friends Rebecca's gotta go before the whole 20 grand is gone.
Daniel and I were talking on the phone, and I said, "Who's that?" And he said, "That's my next ex. She's out of here." He didn't like the fact that she sat out in the garage and smoked dope all day.
Before Daniel can get Rebecca out, he brings in another roommate, Maria Harvick. He's hoping the added rent will help cover expenses that are exploding out of control.
Did he ever talk to you about money concerns?
Well, he had been in the red in the bank, and he said, I wasn't supposed to be. So I was thinking, you need to keep track a little bit better, because I didn't know what the situation was at that time.
Then, just 2 months after Rebecca moves in, all that money would dwindle to almost nothing, and Daniel's domestic bliss would descend into horrifying bloodshed.
911, what's your emergency?
My fiance shot himself in the head by accident.
He shot himself in the head?
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God.
A frantic call to 911. EMTs are desperate to save Daniel from a gunshot to the head. Daniel's mom and sister race to the hospital, unprepared for what they'd see next.
I was in the waiting area when they actually wheeled his body in. I'm screaming, "Is that my Bubba?" Because, his head was covered with the towel.
Sadly, the man Stacy called Bubba, her beloved brother Daniel, is dead.
We already knew at that point that he was gone.
Leaving his family desperate for answers from the two other people in the house, Rebecca Nelson and new roommate Maria Harvick. They were especially interested in what Rebecca had to say, who was right there when Daniel died.
I wanted to talk to her and get her side of what happened.
What was her tone? Was she crying? Was she...
Not really. At the hospital, I asked her when she come up there what had happened, and she had her hands in my face, and she was telling me, and I finally realized that Daniel's blood was on her, both of her hands. And I said, "Is that his blood?" And she said, "Yes."
Cops processed the crime scene and swabbed Rebecca, Daniel, and Maria's hands for gunshot residue. Then this tragic story takes a bizarre twist when Rebecca's brought down to the police station for questioning.
Can I get his wallet at all? Because, I have credit cards in there too, and because the Discover card we just got was actually my card, but it's in his name.
Her boyfriend just killed himself, and she's worried about credit cards? Detectives certainly didn't expect that to be her first concern.
I'm probably going to turn his wallet over to his mom and dad.
And cops are more baffled with what Rebecca starts to tell them about what triggered the shooting.
Everything was just hunky-dory.
Hunky-dory until Daniel checks his bank account online.
He said, "We've got all our bills paid and we're still like $42 in deposit." He said, "What am I supposed to do about, what am I supposed to do, Rebecca?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, let's just worry about it tomorrow."
But Rebecca says Daniel told her there would be no tomorrow.
He jumped up off the couch and he said, "Well, I can show you what I'm going to do about it." And I looked down the hallway and he had that shotgun to his chin. And he said, I'm gonna fix this all right now."
Then Rebecca claims she jumped up and tried to wrestle the gun away from Daniel while making a desperate plea to talk him down.
Just to put the gun down, I said, "Baby, the gun's loaded, you got it cocked. Whatever the problem is, we can fix it. Just put the gun down." He didn't say a word. He just bent over and shot. He hit the floor. He He just dropped.
Then cops bring in Daniel and Rebecca's new roommate, Maria Harvick. Maria tells detectives she didn't see what happened, but she definitely heard it.
I heard the shot. I thought maybe it just went off in, in the ceiling or something, but then when I walked out, I seen him on the floor. And then that's when I started seeing all the blood just start coming.
Did you see the gun at that point?
No.
The autopsy is concise and to the point. Daniel was severely intoxicated. His blood alcohol level, 0.21. Cause of death, intraoral shotgun wound. Manner of death, suicide. Cops closed the case, but Daniel's family says not so fast.
What makes you so sure that this wasn't an accident?
Daniel Underwood, dead from a single gunshot blast to the face. Police called Daniel's death a suicide. At least, that's what Daniel's girlfriend Rebecca tells detectives during this interrogation.
He didn't say a word. He just bent over and shot.
And the only other witness to Daniel's death the night of the shooting, roommate Maria Harvick, who seems to confirm Rebecca's story.
I heard the shot. Then when I walked out, I seen him on the floor.
I told them, that he shot himself.
Now, Maria is changing her story, coming to Crime Watch Daily to reveal what she told cops was a lie.
Is this a suicide or a murder?
It's a murder.
No doubt.
No doubt in my mind.
Maria now claims she did see the gun go off, and Rebecca's finger was on the trigger.
When I stepped back out, she had the gun in her hand, in her right hand, and he looked like he was trying to push it away with his left hand when it went off.
Daniel falls. Rebecca panics. But Maria says Rebecca's fear and desperation wasn't for Daniel, it was for herself.
And I told her she needed to hurry up and call 911. She got up and was just running back and forth down the hallway saying, "Hold on, give me a minute, just wait, just wait." And I said, "Wait for what?" And then right there, she starts trying to tell me, when the cops get here, don't tell them that we argued. She's already telling me what to say and what not to say before calling 911.
My fiance shot himself in the head.
He shot himself in the head?
Yes.
So when she was telling police that he killed himself,
She told me to tell me that he killed himself. She had the gun, not him.
and there is no doubt in your mind what you saw.
I saw it, yeah. I still see it. When I have a nightmare and I wake up to it, I still see it in my head. And it's a horrible thing to have to see.
Maria says those nightmares have haunted her for years. So why didn't she tell her story when she had the chance?
Did you see the gun at that point?
No.
What made you go along with that if that's not what happened?
Yeah, I was scared. I was scared maybe she's gonna shoot me too.
Maria's new story stabs Daniel's family like a knife through the heart. They've suspected Rebecca since that terrible night Daniel was killed.
So when she said, "I witnessed it," she pulled the trigger. That had to have floored the family.
Yeah, and then when she said it, it just, confirmed, okay, now this is kind of making more sense as far as what happened, because he wouldn't have killed himself at all.
Stacy says she will never forget the odd statements Rebecca made to police.
Can I get his wallet at all?
Maria now tells Crime Watch Daily Rebecca's strange behavior actually started in the police station parking lot before their interrogation.
She was just standing out there with her brother and her ex, Daniel, in front of their vehicle, joking and laughing and making jokes about everything.
What did you think about that?
I was mad. I wanted to go punch her in the face.
And Maria claims it didn't end there. She says Rebecca went back the next day, took Daniel's cell phone, and deleted files from his computer.
And what did she do there?
She took a couple of people and they went and took a bunch of Daniel's belongings that she wanted to sell. And then later found out she wanted to erase some stuff off the laptop and off his cell phone.
Investigators find out and want to know why. So they haul Rebecca back into the police station.
What all did you erase from the computer?
Just my personal stuff, my daughter's pictures, divorce papers that are mine, my resume.
This business of of changing anything, okay? Altering anything is going to stop right here and now, okay?
Right.
That doesn't look anything but bad. Anything but bad to do that, okay?
But was it too late? Had the crime scene already been compromised? Journalist Joe Cochran says absolutely.
Everyone was allowed back in hours later.
You go back to the classic O.J. Simpson, crime scene destroyed.
Cochran says the damage had been done.
As we say so many times, the cover-up is sometimes much worse than the crime. How can they go back now?
Cochran also cast doubt on another piece of evidence. Gunshot residue samples taken from Daniel and Rebecca.
The way I understand it, Daniel was right-handed. And like myself, I'm not one that really could pull a trigger or do a lot with my left hand. I understand that's the way he was as well. This boy definitely would have had some evidence on his right hand, gunshot residue. He doesn't have it on his right hand. He has it on his left hand.
Cochran claims that could indicate Daniel was trying to push the shotgun away.
And that left hand was to try and protect what was coming?
He said, "What the?" And it was too late. And the blast went through the middle of his head.
Despite Cochran's theory, forensic reports obtained by Crime Watch Daily show there was no significant gunshot residue on Rebecca's hands. Still, Joe says you can't dismiss what the guilt-ridden Maria saw with her own eyes.
She saw Rebecca shoot him in cold blood. She did not tell that to police. How much did that damage the investigation, even though she went back and said, "I lied"?
She has 4 little children. She was scared to death. There's sometimes that we don't say things out of fear. She has no defense, Maria. She threw up her hands, but now she's come back.
But is it too late? Even though Maria is changing her story, it's not enough for investigators to change their minds. Sulphur Springs police consider the case closed and refused Crime Watch Daily's request for comment. But now another person has come forward. Someone who says Rebecca herself actually told her the entire shocking story and finally revealed the truth.
I was just like, then why the hell ain't you in jail?
Daniel Underwood's former roommate, Maria Harvick, has made a 180-degree head-spinning admission, claiming what she first told cops 10 years ago is not what happened. Daniel didn't commit suicide. His girlfriend, Rebecca Nelson, gunned him down.
She had the gun, not him.
But police in Sulphur Springs, Texas won't budge from their initial conclusion. There was gunshot residue on Daniel's left hand, but no significant amount on Rebecca at all. Daniel Underwood committed suicide.
I really don't know where to go from here, but I really hope that something gets done about it.
Now, Daniel's family may have new hope that something will get done. It comes in the form of a mysterious phone call to Daniel's sister Stacy from a husky-voiced woman, Jenny Perry. And now Jenny is telling Crime Watch Daily her spine-chilling story.
I reached out just basically telling them that I had met Miss Nelson. She was a neighbor of mine back in 2012.
It was 4 years after Daniel's death. Jenny and Rebecca are on the porch, engaged in idle chit-chat.
Was she high that day?
She was always high, just fidgety and bug-eyed and all that all the time. It was obvious she was on dope.
Jenny says Rebecca began bragging about her arrest record, which includes driving on an expired license and failure to appear. But there's one thing not on the list she's just dying to share. And Jenny says this is no petty crime.
She just proceeded to tell me, I could have gone for murder. And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, huh?
And then she randomly unburdened herself to you?
And she said, if it was up to my ex-fiance's mother, I'd be in prison right now.
Jenny says that Rebecca went on to reveal every dirty detail of her relationship that led up to the shooting that terrible night.
So she admitted to stealing his money?
Yeah.
Rebecca tells Jenny when Daniel discovered his bank account had been drained, things turned deadly.
And she said he was threatening to kill me because I stole his money. And she said, so in fear for myself, I ran in the room and got his shotgun. And I came back out and we were standing in the hallway face to face. And she said she was handing him the gun, telling him, well, if you're gonna do it, do it.
What happens next in Rebecca's alleged confession is chilling and confirms what Maria Harvick claims she saw, Rebecca's finger on the trigger.
And she said he threatened her, and she said, so I just shoved the gun forward underneath his chin and I blew his brains out.
Jenny is stunned. Did Rebecca really just admit to murder?
And I was just like, then why the hell ain't you in jail? I just didn't believe her. And she said, because they ruled it a suicide, so I just went with it.
At first, Jenny wondered if Rebecca was just blowing smoke.
She was just one of those people that always had to one-up you, and she thought it made her sound important to tell a bigger, better story. So I'm just like, whatever.
It wasn't until much later, when Jenny sees reporter Joe Cochran's article online, that the pieces started falling into place.
I mean, it was 4 years after she told me this story that I actually read the article and realized there's her name. This really happened.
And now, 10 years after his death, Daniel's family is more convinced than ever he didn't commit suicide.
And then when you heard from Jenny, when you heard her say those words, what were you thinking?
That's exactly what happened. Like, I knew that she killed him, and she actually admitted it finally to somebody.
Peter Hyatt, a renowned deception analyst who teaches a course at the FBI Academy, claims he found several cracks in Rebecca's story.
I was able to analyze 3 of the tapes so far, and they do test for deception.
He didn't say a word. He just bent over and shot.
I think that she was being deceptive about their relationship, about money, and in particular about holding the gun. She would not pass a polygraph, that's for sure.
Rebecca Nelson has never been charged in Daniel Underwood's death, but with all of these new allegations, we desperately want to hear Nelson's side. So Crime Watch Daily tried to track her down. There was no answer at Nelson's last known address, so we went to her sister's house to see if she could help us find her.
We're with Crime Watch Daily. We're here to talk to Rebecca. There's obviously a lot of weighty accusations against her. We always give every single person involved a chance to say what they have to say. It's really important that we have her a part of this, and so she can personally address the accusations.
She actually really has no need to. That is a closed case that has been ruled received.
Right, she is not a person of interest. You're correct.
Right. So you guys have a wonderful day. And
is there any way I can leave my information to get a hold of her?
I don't have any contact with my sister.
Okay.
Voice. So
I see.
You may not need to.
Okay, thank you.
The last time Rebecca Nelson made any statement about Daniel's death was 10 years ago in this police interview, and she clearly told detectives Daniel's death was a suicide.
He didn't say a word. He just bent over and shot.
Now the family is hoping this new information will force authorities to at least listen to the people speaking for Daniel and reopen the case.
She thinks that she got the last word, but I think he needs to be heard.
And Daniel's grieving family members say they won't stop until they feel Daniel gets justice.
How long do you plan to fight it?
My last breath.